Hi Falcons, today we're going to be discussing lesson 3, which is about changing elevation. It is on page 117 of your workbook. That's the page we are on. Follow along with me please and take notes as we go. So we're going to talk about adding sign numbers today. That's the opposite. So draw arrows on a number line to represent these situations. The first one says the temperature was -5 degrees. Then the temperature rose 5 degrees. So we want to show this. We're going to put a 0 in the middle and we'll count by ones. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's do a -5 on the other side. Okay, that's how our number line works. Negative numbers are always to the left, positive numbers are to the right. So the temperature was -5. So if we wanted to show this on a number line, we would show moving down from 0 to -5. But then the temperature rose 5 degrees. So this is where we are. We're going to go back up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where do we end up at? Well, we end up at 0, right? So if we were to write an addition expression to show this, you would have -5 is where you started. You added on a +5, and you ended up at 0. Okay, the next one, the climber was 30 feet above sea level, then she descended 30 feet. So again, I'm going to put my 0 in the middle, and I'm just going to count by 5s this time. So I have 10, 20, 30, and -10, -20, -30. So the climber was 30 feet above, so she's going in a positive direction. Then she descends, means she comes back down 30. Where is she at? So we started at 30, we added a -30, and we ended up again at 0. Okay, so keeping with that in mind, what would be the opposite of running 150 feet east? Well, the opposite of running east would be running 150 feet west. Okay, you try this one. Jumping down 10 steps. Hopefully you said jumping up 10 steps. And pouring 8 gallons into a fish tank. What's the opposite of pouring in? Draining. 8 gallons out. Okay, I could write addition expressions to represent these as well. We went 150 feet east, which is the same as going to the right. That would be a positive number. If we come back left, we're adding a -150 and we get 0. If we jump up 10 steps, well, we jump down first, and now we're going to add a +10, -10 plus +10, we're back where we started, which would be 0. If we pour 8 gallons into a fish tank, we have a +8, and then we drain out 8, that would be adding a -8. 8 plus -8 is 0. These are opposites. Opposites, another word for that is a math term, is additive inverse. Is when you have two addends whose sum is always 0. Those are called additive inverses. So 7 plus -7, 9 plus -9, -5 plus 5. That is an additive inverse. And we have lots of examples of that on this whole page. All right. So for cliffs and caves on the next page, a mountaineer is climbing on a cliff. She is 400 feet above the ground. If she climbs up, it's going to be a positive change. Think about your thermometer. When you go up, it's positive. And if she climbs down, it would be a negative change. So let's complete the table. If this mountaineer starts at 400 feet above the ground, and then the change is positive. So that means she's still going up. She's going to go up 300 more. Well, 400 plus 300 would give me 700 feet up, right? That's her final elevation. If you want to put a plus there, you can. But if we don't have a plus, we know it's positive. We always know that. So if it's 400 is where we start, but we go 150 feet down. So if I go 100 feet down, where would I be? I would be at 300. And then I go another 50 down, I'm going to be at 250 feet. But I'm still positive. I'm still up that mountain. Correct? But if I go 400 is where I start. I'm 400 feet above the ground. And I come down 400 feet. Well, now, these are additive inverses, right? 400 up, 400 down. I'm back at 0 or on the ground. And then the last one, you start at 400 feet of elevation, and you change what to get to 50? What would the change have to be? Are you still going up to get to 50? Hopefully you said, no, I'm going to have to go down. Fill that in. How far are you going to have to go down? All right. I would have to go 350 feet down to get to 50. So now part B says, write an addition equation and draw a number line diagram for B. So I'm going to go up here and look at B. What's my addition equation? Well, I started at 400. And then I went down, so we would represent down with a negative number. So I'm adding a negative 150. And where did I end up? Well, at 250 feet. So on my number line, I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to count by 50s. So I have 100, 200, 300, and 400. And then over here, I would have negative 100. Negative 200, negative 300, negative 400. Okay, it just keeps it even on my number line. So I'm going to start at 0. I'm on the ground, and I go 400 feet up, and that's where I'm going to start. Then I come down 150. So I'm coming down. There's 100. Here's 50. Where did I end up? Right here at 250. Okay? So this was my starting elevation, my change, and my final elevation. So starting, change, and my final. That's how you would represent that. Let's try another one that is very similar to this. This is on page 119. A spelunker is somebody that explores caves. That's what we call a spelunker. A spelunker is down in a cave next to the cliff. If she climbs down deeper into the cave, this is a negative change. If she climbs up, whether inside the cave or out, and up the cliff, this would be positive. So anytime she goes up, it's a positive change. If she goes down, it would be a negative. So if she starts down 200, means she's inside the cave 200 feet, and then she changes and goes further down 150 feet, where is she going to be? She's at 200, so we're going to go down, would be 300. If I go down 150 more, now she's down 350 feet. So I guess we don't want to say negative 350. We'll just say she's at negative 350. We don't want to say that and down, because then that's like a double negative. So if she's at negative 200, but she climbs 100 feet up, where would she be? Well, she would still be at negative 100. If I'm at negative 200 and I climb 200 up, where will I be? Please fill that in. Okay, and hopefully you realize that is the additive inverse. If I'm 200 down and I go 250 feet up, now I am at a positive 50 feet up the cliff. Okay, now I'm starting to climb the cliff, and I'm up 50 feet on it. And if I'm negative 200 feet down in the cave, how would I get to negative 500 feet in the cave? Well, you would have to go another 300 up or down. What do you think? you would have to go down another 300. So now I want you to write an addition equation and draw a number line for C and D, and then we can check them on here. So for C, hopefully you went negative 200, and then you climbed up 200, and that took you to 0. So if we go down 200, up 200, I end up back at 0. Those are additive inverses. And on D, you had negative 200, and you went up to 50. We should put you at a positive 50. So we go down 200 and then up 250, puts us at positive 50. So what does the expression negative 75 plus 100 tell us about the spelunker or the cave person? So right here, we're going to write an explanation of what that would tell us. Well, it tells us that the spelunkers starting point was 75 feet down in the cave. At that point, he or she, the spelunker, the change was climbing up 100 feet. That's why it's positive, because they climbed up 100 feet. So the spelunker was 75 feet down in the cave. And then the change that occurred was they climbed up 100 feet. So the final elevation was 25 feet above the ground. Okay, if you need to pause the video and make sure you get this note, this would be a good time to do that. Okay, the last lesson we're going to talk about today is 3-3 adding rational numbers. Sometimes it helps to group numbers when you get ready to add them. So in this case, they put the parentheses around the 30 plus 5. Well, 30 plus 5 is 35. And if I have a 35 and a negative 35, those are opposites, right? So my answer should be 0. Okay, on the second one, we want to combine the two that are decimals to see what that would equal. So you can think of it as 15 cents and 85 cents. Okay, they both have the same sign. They're both negative, so I can just add them, and I would get $1, right? 10, 0, spare my 1. So if I have 1, a negative 1, and I add 12.5, I end up with 11.5, right? Your different signs, you just subtract, and you would get 11.5. On the last one, I would want a common denominator, so 1/2 can be written as 2/4 plus negative 3/4. Just add your numerators. 2 plus negative 3 would give me a negative 1/4. All right, and hopefully I want you to just take one moment at this one and see if you cannot use your calculator and give me a sum. And hopefully you saw that this is just made up of a bunch of additive inverses that all equal 0, so my sum would be 0. Okay, in summary for today, we're not going to write in our notes. I would just like you to highlight some things. So the opposite of a number is the same distance from 0, but on the other side. So this first one is just showing you that 9 and negative 9 are opposites. And what we wanted to know is that when we add opposites, we always get 0. So that's what it shows on this second number line. 9 plus negative 9 brings us right back to 0. It's always that way with an additive inverse. Now, when we add two numbers with the same sign, we see the sum also has the same sign. So if I add a positive and a positive, I'm always going to get a positive number because I'm always moving to the right. Okay, it can't be anything but positive. When you have a negative number and you add a negative number, you're only going left. So your answer has to be negative. So two positives, when we add them, will always make a positive, and two negatives will always make a negative. Now, when we add two numbers with different signs, we subtract. So essentially what you're doing is finding that difference in magnitude. What is this amount that was empty space there? It was 7, okay? And then we're going to give the sign of the number with the larger magnitude. So my arrow was larger in the positive direction, so my answer is going to be positive. That's what you're looking for. Okay, very good. Your assignment today is in Schoology. It is the Lesson 3 practice problems that start on page 123. Bye, Falcons.